Welcome to the Sacred Rainbow Current Global Online Summit, bringing together the multifaceted custodians of our planet and humanity to reveal deep truths, wisdom, and tools to enable the guardianship of our planet for the future generations. Sacred protection, connection, and the holding of earthly and cosmic light portals is potent to humanity's highest timeline ascension. My name is Kerry Bridget McCrory, and I am your summit host and creator, airing from the Valley of Coniglen in the central Sperrin Mountains of Northern Ireland, Ériu. My mountain is Spatmadua, and my river today is the thousands of little tributaries that flow from the high mountain peaks into the burns, into the valleys below. Today's interview, the Sacred Sperrins Ériu Shared Initiatives, is a vitally important part of the inspiration for the Sacred Rainbow Current Summit. It is quite difficult to put into words the high vibration of light that emanates from the Sperrin Central Mountains, with their unique, untouched, unspoilt terrain in the most expansive mountain range on the island of Ireland, Ériu. Many of the Sperrin Mountains' hidden gems, ancient stone circles, megalithic tombs and sites have remained hidden in the rugged rural ancient landscapes tucked away for thousands of years under dark, starry skies. In the heart of the central Sperrin Mountains, the rivers, streams, field line boundaries, laneways, and ancient roads have melded into the landscape for centuries. The megalithic structures have stood grounded and still for aeons of time that our miniature minds would find difficult to comprehend. The history, which is sometimes told as his story, with the past conflict and warring, raging, uprooting and planting of people and ground alike, is deeply interweaved with the Sperrins and her story also. Be sure to know that the tallest mountain in the Sperrins, known as Savills Mountain, is named after Queen Maeve's most intimate and orgasmically divine body parts. You can be sure that the ancient Sperrin Mountains were highly venerated for the creative vitality and flow that they embody into the landscape of Ériu, and this is evidence for miles upon miles with numerous megalithic sites dotted in all directions from this beautiful mother mountain. Now, from this introduction, I now want to take the time to introduce you to two different representatives from two different groups of local people who are working extremely hard to ensure protection, connection, and the healthy, long life of a treasured landscape. Mirella Fife, who I'm introducing first, owns her own yoga studio and has been teaching yoga for years. She is representing the Save Our Sperrins Environmental Protection Group, an environmental interest group based in the heart of the Sperrins in County Tyrone. Save Our Sperrins are predominantly involved with stopping the proposed gold mine in Curranault in Greencastle. And I'd like to say welcome and thank you for speaking today, Mirella. So,
took me a moment there to unmute myself. Thank you, Kerry, for the lovely welcome, and thank you for your wonderful opening. It was lovely just to sit and hear that and remind myself of what's at stake here.
Yeah, it's such a beautiful mountain range. So, Mirella, what inspired you to become involved with Save Our Sperrins? What was the inspiration?
My inspiration came from several different sources. One, I've always had a background in just being outside, out in nature from the time I was 3 or 4 years of age. I used to walk with my dad by holding his hand and asking him the names of the trees and the birds. And I even knew them in Latin at that age, and I knew all the names of the birds. And that continued. But do you know, you get sidetracked in life, and it was a long time till I was able to come back around. And anyways, I ended up doing a degree in horticulture a million years ago, and taught in organic horticulture for years. And then so that interest is there, that underlying vibe in my life. I can safely say I've planted between 30 and 50,000 trees in my life across since my early 20s. And as I move through life, there's a huge awareness is growing in me of actually the baseline that I knew as a child, the grasshoppers in the grass, the birds that were about. We used to sleep in an old tree house, and in the evening, the rooks and the jackdaws coming back, numbered in their thousand, coming. The sky used to darken. You don't see that anymore, and that's a changing baseline. And I have grandchildren these days, and I think they have lost that already. They don't even know that existed at that time. So I was very aware of the gold mine being in existence, and the campaign against it. Well, not the gold mine, the planned gold mine. But when in the early days, I was really up to my eyes in young teenagers, and getting them out and getting them on in life and so on. And I had said to myself, when the time was right, I would join in. However, one thing leads to another, and it went on the long arm, because there's always other things that get in the way. And so eventually then farmer came down the lane to us here. I live on the edge of Mullacarn, which is one of the mountains of the Sperrins as well, and came down and said, "Did you know that they're prospecting for gold less than a mile away from you?" And I said, "What?" I said, "I know they're prospecting up in Greencastle, but I didn't know that they were prospecting here just outside home." And he said, "Yeah, they are." And he says, and the interesting thing is, it's less than 200 meters from the water reservoir, the freshwater reservoir for Oma. So I couldn't believe it. And I went up, and sure enough, I could see the drill rigs there, and they were taking core samples. And I was totally shocked. Just to look back around for a moment, I spent some years in Australia, and when I was there, I happened to come upon the Mount Isa gold stroke copper mine, which is the biggest. No, it wasn't a gold mine, it was a copper mine, the biggest copper mine in the world at that point. It was back in the early 80s. And when I drove over the road, I was driving this old ute, and the copper mine spread out at my feet as far as the furthest horizon was the destruction of this mine in every direction. I was aghast. And it was open cast mining, the exact same as what's planned for the Sperrins, So when the farmer told me about the news of the potential for it to be mining up here as well as in Greencastle, and I looked around me. Well, I says, well, that horizon over there, it'll be all ripped out as far, and that horizon over there, that's what's going to happen here, And so people say, "Oh, NIMBYism." Yes, NIMBYism, and isn't it great? NIMBYism is great because it galvanizes people into action, and they get to become aware of what's happening in the world, So I was a slow starter, but I did join them. I think it was about 2016. It had been going since then, since about 2013. And that was my inspiration from that point forward, to get involved and to go to war, so to speak.
Just for the people who don't know, what is NIMBYism? Some people mightn't
Not
be
in
aware.
my backyard.
Yes, I'm
In
just
my backyard. That's where it
clarifying.
comes from. And it's been thrown at me lots of times. And yes, I put my hands up. I was slow to get involved, but it wasn't that I didn't have the intention. It was just life got in the way. I probably would have been involved, but might just taken a bit longer. So that's and thank goodness for it, because otherwise, if there weren't people who were getting concerned about what was happening in their backyards, there was an awful lot more environmental damage occurring in the Sperrins. And all I can say is that the work we have done so far means there hasn't been a mine there. It hasn't yet managed to get, even though they started way back in 2010 or something like that to try and get a
And
mine.
it's such a good thing that somebody like yourself is involved who understands the reality
Yeah,
of what gold mining brings forth to the landscape,
that's it. That's it. Yeah, and
that you
the
have that life
physical the
experience.
physical memory of that, Kerry, it's like a kick in the gut. You know, this beautiful Australian outback, completely trashed, never fit for purpose for anything ever again. It's
Uh-huh.
completely wasted. Yeah,
And,
hundreds of miles of ground, of territory.
and that's what I think as well with Ireland is such a tiny country. Like it wouldn't even be like our country would hardly be like a state or a county in the
For sure,
Americas.
for
And
sure.
like it's just if um if that becomes contaminated, it's lights out.
It is, yeah, because at the end of the day, it's the things that we're most reliant on, our fresh air and our clean water there's a huge threat, and you just have to read about any mine anywhere, and people are living in it near any mine anywhere. They're trucking in the water, and a lot of the local within, they have these sort of 5 mile radius, 10 mile radius, very unusual cancers, particularly childhood cancers, and it's just don't have to believe me. You just have to look up any mine anywhere, and this is what you get. And people are very willing to stand up and say, if we knew what we'd known back then, we would never have let them in.
Yeah. I believe you have a presentation, Morella, that you might want to share with us.
Yeah, I do. Just bear with me while I try and get it up here in front of us. And at any point, feel free to jump in and clarify any point or question or so on. Just a little rider. I think I presented this back in 2023, so it's mostly up to date, but it doesn't include the public inquiry that we're going through right now. But we'll chat about that later if you wish. Okay, so here we go. And it's vanished. Oh, here we go. Share. No, wrong one. We don't want to share that. Okay, can't. Sorry. Screen is sharing, is paused.
Maybe I need to let you in, or
Hang on a sec now. And I've lost you. Here we are. Here.
oh, very
Okay,
good.
can you see that?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Okay, so this is typical of what our sperrins look like. Very ancient mountains, so they're not high and sharp and peak-like as in other places in the world, but have been eroded down through time. And there millenniums of people have lived here and made their living out the green and fertile valleys of the valleys of the Sperrins. So it's a beautiful area. It's a beautiful part of Ireland, and because they're not so dramatic, perhaps there's less attention given to them, and perhaps that's why we haven't got sort of national park status or things like that. But the whole area is an AONB, an area of outstanding natural beauty, and it also protected. There are different scientific SSI protection across the Sperrins too. So the next one. So the background to this is um, Dalradian Gold, a Canadian company, began operations in Northern Ireland in 2009, but the presence wasn't widely known until 2013. They were working very quietly in the background, handing out money to communities for various community ventures. So if you had a local football club, or if you needed something for your school, or you needed a bus for your group, they were very, very happy to hand out money for those things. But there was a rider that you mustn't object against the gold mine, and you must never speak out against it. So this was quietly going around. Fortunately, a number of people in the central Sperrins, particularly around Greencastle, were concerned enough to start to set up a group, a protector group, Save Our Sperrins, to challenge what it was that they're up to. The company was granted prospecting license to explore metals over 300,000 acres in counties Tyrone and Derry. And then, of course, the Crown Estate in London owns the right to the precious metals and receives taxes from any that are mined. And I believe the taxes that for everything that comes out of the ground and that is of value, there's a 4% tax that they receive. So they don't actually own the ground, but they own the mineral rights to the ground. And this is going back in history. And I suppose you could put it as part of the old colonial, as you know, Ireland was colonized, and this is one of the leftover things that we are left to deal with. So 25% of Northern Ireland, 27% of the Republic of Ireland have been given out prospecting licenses. It's a quarter of Northern Ireland and nearly 30% of the Republic of Ireland. And then in 2014, Dalradian set up their community fund to distribute money, gifts, and sponsorship. But recipients must agree to be used for publicity and refrain from opposing the company. Save Our Sperrins was established in June 2015, and we've that's out of date now. We've nearly 9,000 followers on Facebook, and we've a very vibrant group active on the ground as well. So we'll go to the next slide, theoretically. Oh, there we go. So this is the Dalradian planning application. In November 2017, Dalradian submitted 10,000-page planning application for a gold mine processing plant, the largest in Ireland. In fact, it is the largest planning application ever on the island of Ireland. So this thing is huge. And they don't talk about it being a gold mine. They speak about it as being a mining camp. They submitted the first addendum in 2019 with 15,000 pages and a second addendum in 2020 with another 20,000 pages. So you can imagine when we were preparing for our public inquiry, it's incumbent on us to read all this and to see what they're saying in it and what it is that they're actually applying for. So and as we began to read in the planning applications, it became very obvious to us that they never thought it was actually going to be read by anyone, because in some places they talk about not having dust because the tailings pile, which is going to be 17.5 stories high, needs to be kept dry. And another part they said, and it also needs to be kept wet to keep down the dust. So which is it? Does it have to be kept dry or does it have to be kept wet? This is one of hundreds and thousands of anomalies and things that don't make sense in the planning application. They're obviously betting on nobody ever reading them. Dalradian has proposed a 900-meter deep underground mine, 900 meters, so it's sort of 2,500 feet. Or I don't know what that might not be, but it's roughly in that area. And they're planning on using explosives twice a week for 20, and that's actually they're planning on using explosives twice a day for 20 years, which would release toxic emissions and potentially cause acid mine drainage. So what is acid mine drainage? When heavy metals are brought to the surface, these heavy metals react with the air and become oxidized. And then when they leach into the water, and as they get washed away, it turns on this acid mine drainage. It makes the water acidic, and very acidic, like so acidic that nothing could live in it. And these waters are the upper reaches of the Owen Ray and the Owen Killew, which filter into the Foyle, eventually down into the Foyle River Basin, and then some of the other watershed eventually ends up in Lough Neagh. And we both know we all know the problems that Lough Neagh is one of the biggest inland lakes. It is the biggest inland lake in Northern Ireland, and there's been humongous problems with in relation to pollution. That recently it's a dying lake, and then the Foyle River is the biggest one. Used to be a huge salmon and sea trout fishing river, and the quality of water in the upper reaches of the Onray and the Onkellew has to be absolutely perfect for salmon and sea trout to spawn successively. But Dalradian have assured us that by adding these extra heavy metals to the water, that will actually leave the water even cleaner. However, when asked would they drink a glass of this clean water, they assured us no, that they wouldn't drink a glass of this clean water. Now, when we asked that, I was on record at a public meeting. The waste rock will be stored in a 17-story dry stack facility, which could raise dust into the air and posing a health risk. The company plans to use 3.3 million litres of diesel per year, contributing to hazardous emissions and further exacerbating carbon emissions as well. And in relation to our climate emergency, it doesn't make sense at any level. Radon gas here in the Sperrins, if you're building a house, you're part of building control has this policy that you have to put in a radon barrier between your house and the ground, because radon gas is released naturally when the soil is disturbed, and then if you have a radon barrier, it keeps you healthy. But however, the amount of radon gas that will be released due to the earthworks mine will be massive and ongoing, and this is just another factor in the overall plan that they have here for Northern Ireland. So they plan to remove 74 acres of carbon storing peatland, extracting 500,000 gallons of water per day. I can't even begin to describe how many tennis courts that is, but it's a hell of a lot of water, harming local ecosystems and water sources. And as our upland bogs are completely dependent on peat being wet to keep the sphagnum moss alive, really what we are tantamount to is we're destroying what for us is our rainforest, where that locks up carbon and keeps it out of the atmosphere. And yet, contrary to everything that is that's going on in the world, this has been put down in their application. They assure us though that it will be carbon neutral because they will plant trees somewhere or whatever. But at the end of the day, bottom line is they're still putting carbon up into the atmosphere. So it doesn't, it's nonsense.
It's
The company
absolutely
sorry,
terrifying.
Kerry.
It's just absolutely terrifying when you actually sit and you absorb what is planned for the area.
It's extraordinary. Yeah, it is extraordinary. Sorry, I forgot to move the slides on because I got lost in what I was saying. I don't even know what slide I'm on, but anyways, we're kind of in the same area. So the human, what say, where am I? The last thing, the company intends to discharge a toxic mix of 24 heavy metals into local rivers, threatening the biodiversity in designated conservation areas. These are designated conservation areas with these rivers flowing through it. There's a list of the ecological impacts, which I've slowly talked you through there. And then the human impact. The Dalradian has already caused huge community division through financial incentives and job promises. So you can imagine farms owned by brothers, and maybe one brother wants to take the money, the golden handshake, and the other brother is then against it. Or, farms that have been farmed for generations by the same families now are being turned over to gold mines. Then there's clubs that have taken money and other clubs didn't want to take the money. So it really has already split apart communities, and there isn't even a mine in place. And they're offering incentives and job promises, and of course, we're not a mining country, and of course when they come they say they'll employ locally, and when we asked them what they meant local, local means from anywhere in Europe. So we don't have the mining expertise, so they're not going to be able to fulfill the jobs that they want people to do by employing local. They may employ local for a short while, but after that, you can be assured that a lot of workers will be coming in from abroad. Though the health impacts include respiratory diseases, cancer risks, mental health issues due to anxiety and stress over the mines. That's already happening. We've already had marriages that split up. We have people who taken to drink over the whole thing, and so on. We've perhaps people who are very ill from stress. So potential impact. So they're totally up to criminalizing the earth protectors. First they tried to put the slur of terrorists. Oh, they're just terrorists or whatever, and that's just the Greencastle ones or whatever. So and then trumped up charges, and keeping things being dragged through the courts year after year without things getting finalized, and the protectors. Yeah, now I'm not saying they're totally innocent, but there's never been any damage done. The worst thing that was ever happened was one guy had his wrists. He chained himself to a gateway on the outside when the place was closed, and they used plastic ties, so they were easy cut off. That's the most that's ever been done, and that poor guy is going through the courts for the last 4 years, unable to get that charge cleared. It's serious nonsense. But then there have been death threats. The police have come out and said this is a credible death threat. The criminalization of protectors, assaults. There's been a couple of them have been beaten up, cars driven at people against anyone opposing the mine. So that's all. None of that's made up. It's all verifiable and documented. And I myself have been arrested. I didn't leave the council chambers one night in protest to a decision that they kept kicking up the road, and if they didn't make the decision that night, it wouldn't be made until after the critical moment had passed for the decision. And there was numbers arrested. We were immediately de-arrested on the way out and told us to be no further charges taken. There was no trouble on the night around. It was very polite, and there was good old banter with the police. And then 18 months later, at a late on a Friday night, a police car turns up here and presented me with a charge, and I refused to accept the charge because I didn't believe that I had committed a crime. And that charge still is hanging over me. It has been there since before COVID, and so it means if I want to travel or whatever, that charge is still on my record, and I don't know what's happened to it. I need to put in a freedom of information, see about it. Anyways, so Dalradian, next one. Dalradian has employed PR companies to promote their environmental responsibility despite plans to discharge toxins into rivers. They use misleading images in their advertising. It really is greenwashing. This is all the stuff. These figures come off their planning application. So none of it is made up, and it's very easy. There's a trail of evidence everywhere. So the safety and environment. Am I going back? No, right. So safety and environmental concerns. The planned 900-meter deep mine and the 17-story high waste facility are located dangerously close to a school and community areas. the company's conflicting statements on managing the waste facility raise concerns about the feasibility of maintaining safety and environmental standards in a wet and windy climate like the Sperrins. And just to talk about the dry stack facility, we have a number of experts helping us. One is a retired chief engineer from the roads department here in Northern Ireland, and he says it's not a matter if but when that dry stack facility will collapse. He says it is no doubt going to collapse. That's a given. So that really brings really to the end of my here. There's just more disingenuous advertising here. They propose to buy carbon credits to offset. Just a moment here. I need to plug my laptop in because my battery is way down. Just 1 second.
No problem. It's so scary, Mirella, you know, as you're speaking and you're sharing this, like I can feel my heart racing, and you know, even though it is so scary, though it's so necessary that, you know, that we are aware of what is going on in our landscapes and with our land.
That's it.
And you know, if we can take that fear that is within us and transform it, use it as fuel, just to take little steps, you know, that it's very important that everybody uses their voice and uses the love that's in their heart to protect what has been ours for generation. That this is our whole, like this is our home, this is our life.
That's right, Kerry, and it's what we say is, you know, you have to go to work in the arena that you can make a difference in, you know. So people say, well, God, you know, this is so big. There's nothing we can do about it. But there is, you know, and whatever, you know, whatever arena that is available for you, that's where you go to work it. I'm in a really odd situation here at the minute. A paperclip has got between the plug of my laptop and my plug. And I'm about to run out of battery and I can't get the paperclip out of the plug. I'm really sorry.
The universe knows we need a laugh because this is such heavy stuff.
I know, it's just really silly and I'm trying to fish it out here.
That's the fairies. The fairies haven't given up. They want us. They want it in a dimension too.
I would just wish them fish, just put out there to the universe that the fairies have helped me fish this damn thing out here at the minute, because otherwise everything's going to come to a halt.
Well, if anything happens, we'll let you back.
Oh, no, I have it out now. It's gone. It's gone. Hold on. Now maybe I'll be able to get plugged. There I am. I'm back. I'm sorry about that.
No, you're grand. So thank you so much for that really in-depth consultation that you have shared, that really in-depth knowledge. And the one last thing I want to ask is just how stopping the planned gold mine in the Sperrins has both local and global consequences. If you could say something about that, maybe, Mirella.
Yeah, well, perhaps I've just been speaking about the local consequences, which are various and far-reaching. The global consequences, of course, is the climate emergency, and of course the collapse of our ecology, the collapse of ecological systems, and the loss of species. And by us continuing to do as we've always done, we're always going to get the same result. It's up to us now to start to. We need to create a new system where extractivism isn't where we operate from. We need to operate from closed circles. Whatever we take out of the system goes back into the system. We can no longer continue to live as if that the earth has endless resources, because it absolutely doesn't. And if we don't make a stand now, how on earth can we offer any sort of equity and fairness to the generations come behind it? And we will hang our heads in shame when the poverty and the violence that will arise in the world through us as a generation not having stood up and said, right, it's time for me to do something about this. It's time for us to stop all of this, to create a greater and a far better, more hopeful, more optimistic, a vibrant future for us all going forward, for our children and our grandchildren. And that's really where the global impact, so we'll work on local to create a global impact, little bit by little bit. All of us can do something. And it's actually, that's our slogan in anyone can make a difference and everyone should try.
Oh, that's beautiful. And that's true.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Morella. Thank you.
And just to point out at the bottom of the slide, there's ways you can contact us, and don'tmindus.com is where all the information about our public inquiry at the minute. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Morella. Okay. Thank you.
Right.
So our next speaker is Annie Mullen, and Annie Mullen is part of a group called Save the Moat. Annie has worked in the conservation and environmental education sector for 20 years before setting up a social enterprise on her farm. She is a member of the recently formed Save the Moat group, which is campaigning against the industrialisation of the Sperrins area of outstanding natural beauty. And can I ask, Annie, what was Hello, thank you for being with us tonight, Annie. What was the inspiration to work along with Save the Moat for yourself, Annie?
Well, thank you to Morella as well for an amazing presentation. It's a hard person to follow. But the parallels is actually, it's scary, really. So many things that Morella has said. And I will admit too, you're right, NIMBYism, I really didn't know much about the issues. So first and foremost, Save the Moat was set up to counteract a proposed planning application of a massive wind farm on one of the mullocks, and our farm is on that mountain. So, and that mountain locally is called the Moat. But it's part of the High Sperrins, part of the four mullocks that run over to Sowell that you were talking about. I'm originally from the Sowell area. My family, going back generations, is from around Sowell and Dart, and Glenelly Valley here, where I'm based at the minute. But so the group was really just about a year ago, after a public consultation by RES, about putting a massive, the biggest wind turbines in Ireland, 180 meters high, onto a peatland, onto a steep mountain face, and really that was why I got involved. Now, I was always very pro wind farms. I have massive concerns coming from a conservation background about climate change. And just gradually I thought, well, I do need to educate myself. And I really have been educated in the last year. And I think that a lot of the green extractivism that Morella talked about, the greenwashing, and the conflict, the stress and division in communities, and the bribery, giving out grants as well, trying to get favour among the communities. It's very similar as to what Dalradian's been doing in Greencastle and around those areas, and also talking to other people who live near existing wind farms. It's almost like, as Morella said, people who've lived side by instead of had a known. We're talking to families that are living near Craignagapple and over those wind farms that are ready in the Sperrins, and they said if we had a known, we thought it was a great thing 25 years ago coming into our area. So really that's how I became involved, because it is, but also for the wider Sperrins area of outstanding natural beauty, there's no protection, and really our group wants to, look at and work with others to achieve some protection for the Sperrins.
Yeah, and there would be a lot of ancient megalithic stones around your area that are on a very unique. It's like actually, it's undescribable, the beauty that is
Mm.
in those areas, that the wildlife, the beauty, it's just, it's like the same as thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago. And how many, you know, like how few are those places on the planet now?
There's just, it's the last while. If you're up in the Sperrins, I hike in the Sperrins, and if you're up in the high Sperrins along Glenelly Valley, you can be up there and you can look around and you can see nothing. You can be in areas where you can look as far as I can see, and you see nothing man-made. It's the way the high Sperrins are. All the villages are hidden in the valley, and that wild place, that would be totally taken away from us. And you mark my words, if there's one farm gets into the high Sperrins, they'll be getting in everywhere. We already hear proposals for ones up near Dart, near Sowell, and yes, that area is one of the highest concentrations in Ireland of archaeological sites. And the turbine is actually, one of the turbines is 100 meters away from a site. You know, it beggars belief.
Yeah, and I live in a valley too. So you have like the Cunninglen Valley, Glenlark, and the Glenelly Valley. So it's all
Yeah.
the very central Sperrins. And like yourself, Annie, whenever I moved into this area and walked to the top of the specific Sperrin Mountain that I live on now, and I remember being on that mountain, and say that would have been about 2000, well, maybe about 9, 10, 11, around that period. Whenever you looked out, that expansiveness was there.
Yeah.
And there was no industry, no sign of industry. But now, where I am in the particular location, when you look to the outer lower Sperrins,
Yeah.
like I lost, you couldn't count the wind farms.
Saturation
Uh-huh.
is unreal. And I have got some maps as well on the slides to show that. And also, it's not just turbines, there'll be BESS. There's already planning in for a very large, which is a battery energy storage system, because the turbines won't work without that. But also there's a large connection that actually Dalradian in their proposals is to use the energy for the mine from the wind farm. So
That's
all
right.
these things are just going hand in hand. And let me tell you, everybody knows about it. Like this is not something that's just happens to have happened. And a lot of these large companies are international companies, which the RES will have a lot of their shareholders in southern England and from Australia and places like that, and that's where the money will go to. It'll not end up local. A pittance
That's right.
will end up locally. But all this, if you look at government strategies, you can see that it's all there. This has been planned, and it's been kept quiet from the people in the Sperrins, and people from the Sperrins are just starting to wake up to the fact that we've been sold down the river.
Yeah, yeah, that's so true. Never a truer word was said.
What, Annie, do you think that the government is doing to protect the Sperrins? Are they doing anything? Because like you say, we're in an area of outstanding natural beauty, and that we
That
have that
means
state of...
nothing, Kerry. It means nothing. That has no legislative impact. There is
Yeah.
nothing in the legislation about the Sperrins AONB that says the government has to protect it at all. There's
Yeah.
no national parks in Northern Ireland, and that you know, that is conscious decision by government, because national park would give protection. And in England, their AONBs have got protection in legislation. And there's a line that says the government departments have a duty and they must protect and enhance, and that. Here, our legislation says they may protect and enhance. So we were just at the Sperrins area AONB management plan launch. So the four councils are coming together to create a management plan, but they themselves admitted, you know, that it's really, this is not a protection thing. That's more about promoting it and maybe making a brand and raising its profile,
That's right.
education. but there's nothing in there about protecting it. And there was more people from mining companies and turbines at that management plan
And what I'm wondering as
than
well
there
is,
was anybody else. And they're just going to say, we've ticked the box. We went and heard about the Sperrins management plan. They're very good at ticking boxes and saying, yes, we've consulted. Consultation means nothing these days. Consultation means, yeah, I heard what your concerns are, but I'm just going to go ahead and do what
but
makes the most
what
sense.
I'm wondering as well is the AO MB, where you're saying the legislation now says may be protected. Like whenever I became involved with Brockderg
Yeah,
for the prevention of a wind farm in my own area, like that's one of the things I really focused in on, that we were in an area of outstanding natural beauty, which
yeah.
is protected, and that our governments would have received a lot of funding and a lot of finances under that element, that we are protected. And not only it's our species, our protected species, or
Well,
has that changed? Like, was it always?
well, we're not in Europe anymore. So
So
they are,
is that what's changed?
I don't know if it is, I don't know. Yes, we're not in Europe anymore. The laws are there. You're right. There is protected areas. The foil is a special area of conservation. And this is all, but the mine is happening into the foil catchment. These wind turbines will be affecting into the special area of conservation, which is the river foil and its tributaries. And that will be all looked at. Of course it will. And they will have to take all of that into account. But that doesn't mean at the end of the day that they won't say, yes, but this is of national importance and we need to go, it'll all be down to mitigation. We'll mitigate here, we'll mitigate there. But it doesn't mean that it's going to be protected from look at Lough Neagh. Lough Neagh has got plenty of designations, and has that saved it? The loch is nearly dead.
There is
So I have no faith. I'm from a conservation background, but I have no faith in a lot of these designations. And plus, what's a follow-up? These people get environmental impact statements. And wind turbines make a lot of promises in their planning applications. There's nobody actually going out and measuring what the impact is 10 years on, 5 years on. Our Environmental Protection Agency is not fit for purpose, and it is definitely not fit to monitor a mining camp the size Dalradian is looking to put in, and they're not even measuring the impact of all the wind farms that are here already. So we have no confidence in protection.
We don't even have the people who test the waterways don't even test for heavy metals. And already are left to do their own testing to assure us that
it's like the low frequency noise. The council, they don't have the equipment. They can't test for it. They don't have the equipment to test for the low frequency noise that's coming off the turbines. No, there's so many things like the
stitch up in all directions.
Yeah.
There is a train of thought that Northern Ireland and Donegal is the sacrificial zone for Europe. Industrial sacrificial zone. Hence we've no decent railway to the northwest, we've no decent infrastructure, hence the collapsing of the hospitals and so on, the bringing in, moving away from the northwest to allow it to open it up to complete industrialization. There is that would be the dirty man of Europe.
Well, you could just go on the Department of Economy's Facebook page today, and you can see Conor Murphy there welcoming the 4 data centers that has been passed in Derry, and they are, it says that these are energy hungry.
Massive energy.
That employ no one. Why are we passing them in Derry? Why are they affecting our net zero targets? Because they just feel that the Northwest can be covered in wind turbines.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, you know, if people are saying, but we need the wind turbines for, you know, for the lights that we're using, but most of that's not. Most of that's going to be going. 30% of that is going to be going to these data centers.
Yeah, or more.
Or more. And what's in that? That's all about, it's mainly about 3 or 4 of the biggest global companies making money, holding your data, holding my data, trying to sell us things. Of course, we do need a certain percentage of data centers, but as you say, all the ones that are going to be servicing Europe and maybe even further around the globe is going to be based in the northwest of this small island. On the back of, we've got lots of wind. But the people don't see the impact that a turbine does. Maybe if I go onto my slide and maybe show a few things, that, you know, wind turbine, it's not.
Yes, go on ahead.
It's not the benign energy form that people, you know, think that it is. So I
Go ahead and share.
yeah. I think you may have to give me permission, is it? Or
yeah, if I see.
Is that okay? Is that coming up now?
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So that's the area we're talking about there. So you can see the, you know, the beauty of this. You can see the peatland, the bogland that's there. Obviously there has been impact into it. You can see the lazy beds here as well. So all the archaeological features, but beautiful range of quite wild, untouched hills. You know, that's the way we would like them to stay. So Save the Moat, where there's over 30 households, mainly around the Plum Bridge and Highbrack area, and there's probably about 2,500. Very quickly, a lot of likes on Facebook and a lot of people following us. So we do have support, but we are very young. We're only a year old. It was a proposed planning for the wind farm at Mullacabra, which is known locally as the Moat. Might have to move this. Sorry, I need to go back. So that is why we've been formed to stop. It's called the Mullacabra. That's the second mountain, so it covers 2 or 3 mountains, and it is within the Sperrins AONB. But also, it's not just about stopping this one that's on our backyard. It's looking now for a review of all wind farm activity, and to investigate the full impacts of the wind energy production. And we actually did get a motion passed in council, and for Derry City and Strabane District Council, some independent councillors took forward a motion for council to measure the impact of the existing wind farms in their council area. Now, how that be done and what methodology is going to be used, we still have to wait and see. But really, we've found by talking to communities close to wind farms, they feel like their quality of life has been such negatively impacted, and that they feel that nobody has come to measure anything of what's going on with them. We're also calling for a more balanced and regional approach to the achievement of the Climate Act targets. I am not anti-renewables whatsoever. Ourselves, we installed solar panels only a year ago, and we definitely see the need for renewables, but it can't be like another heritage scandal, or with the biomass boilers. Really, it has to be thought through, it has to be strategic, and it can't be unjust. It can't be that the whole of the Northwest has to take the wind farms for most of Europe. The visual impact is obviously going to be a major thing because of the wildness and unspoiledness of the area, but I don't even think it's the biggest thing. I think there is even more important things that will happen, and really thinking of ecologically. So as Morella was talking about the AONBs, but also we are just above a couple of areas of special scientific interest. There's a raised bog and Ibrack raised bogs just below the site. It's obviously on protected habitat of peatland, and we're talking about thousands and thousands of bog being dug out to put these turbines in. Now, this is in an area where there's already been landslides, with nobody being near it or digging it out. And obviously Glenelg Valley had a massive landslide in August 2017 as well. So there's landslides, locally. It's prone to that. So you can see here in this bottom picture, that's the landslide that happened where they were digging up for wind turbines in Donegal. And so there's a good chance that if this happens, even without a landslide, by digging up the peat for the turbines, the amount of peat that's going to end up in the tributaries and then eventually end up in the foil is going to have a massive impact on the special area of conservation, which, it's all about the otters and the salmon. That's the reason they were designated, and it's the clear waters that makes the river foil and tributaries a special a special area. And if you put peatland in, put peat into that system, it's just going to wreck the whole ecosystem. And that's not even talking about the birds. And obviously the birds are affected by turbines. We have hen harriers, we have sparrowhawks, buzzards, there's grouse, we have curlews, and there's a lot of bats around this area as well. And once you start digging out a peat and it starts drying out, there's really no going back from that.
And I think a lot of people don't understand, they don't realise that our upper peatlands, our mosslands are spongy. So they hold when it pours from the heavens, which we're getting, like look at all the floods worldwide. So when it pours from the heavens, that landscape really holds that nourishment, that water. And, whenever that's all dug out and concreted, like all the water then goes to the lower lands around the Sperrins. They get the biggest impacts of the floods. The rivers can't hold it because the upper lands can't naturally do their work. And also that is already naturally carbon holding. There is no logic in digging up what is carbon holding naturally by millions of years of evolution to pick concrete structures.
And it's
lunacy.
It is lunacy, and they talk about doing peatland restoration. So this is all in these documents that Morella was showing. That they'll say, "Oh, but don't worry, we're going to restore peat." Peat only grows about a centimeter a year. They're going to 100 years. They're going to have a meter of peat, but they're going to dig out thousands and thousands of meter of peat. There's no rhyme or reason to it. And as you say, it's a carbon sink. It's 30 times unspoiled bogland has 30 times more carbon holding potential than the Amazon rainforest. So if somebody says we're going to go over and we're going to cut down the Amazon rainforest, but don't worry, we're going to put some wind turbines in instead to reduce climate change, I mean, there'd be total outcry. But that's what we're doing here, and far worse.
But the whole thing seems to go back to the mentality of the governments that are running the earth and the world. Like that, this has to change. Them old voices have to go because there's going to be nothing left for the youth and for the young.
There's so much subsidies given to these companies. It is so lucrative to put up a turbine. Is so lucrative. The amount of money you can make off it. It's not the amount of electricity it can make, because they actually even get paid when the turbine's not turning, and we're getting all that added to our bills. So it's all about, it's showing the numbers, greenwashing the numbers, but it's not about making green electricity. They will be making some, but when you do the carbon, the numbers, it probably would never retrieve the carbon that it's taken to actually create that turbine on the other side of the world, get it shipped here, get it taken. They're going to have to widen a whole pile of roads from Ibrack to Claudy to actually fit these turbines in, to get them up to the site. And then the amount, as you say, the amount of peat that has to be dug out. Now, John Gormley, who's on our site, he could tell you all the tonnage. I'm not so good at that. And then the concrete that'll be poured in. It is pure madness. But the other things that local people are very worried about is health issues as well. There's the shadow flicker, which ourselves here, there's 2 social farms, and we work with adults with autism, and noise and flicker is a big problem for them, and can really set off fits, and we could have other problems with it. And the reason there's 2 social farms on this side of the mountain is because it is such an unspoilt and quiet and peaceful area. If we have this constant whir of the turbines, how will that affect how we deliver our services, and how will it affect the benefits that they get out of coming here? Will they still want to come here? There are other things like the carbon release we spoke about, microplastics and toxins that actually come off the blade constantly. And all of that's going into your peat. It's getting washed into your tributaries, and that of course is that's going into the foil, which is a water source. So then all that has to be treated by chemicals to get all these microplastics and toxins out. And then of course, most of the time you have a lot of the time you see these turbines that aren't working or breaking, and they don't have the 25-year lifespan that they say they have. And they're getting replaced, and how are they disposed of? That's another global problem. Obviously, we're worried about the impacts on the social farms and other businesses locally, but also tourism. There's tourism at last in the Sperrins is actually starting to happen. For years, Sperrins has been pretty much ignored. And tourism in Northern Ireland was all about the Giant's Causeway, the North Coast, Derry City and Belfast. So it is nice to see that there is a lot of money. There's been millions putting in the Giants on the various mountains, and promoting tourism. So if we're, as you say, from where you see your hill, it's totally covered in turbines, single turbines and wind farms. It's really not going to be an attractive place to visit anymore. And there is a lot of lesser known information, about wind turbines, and it's very hard. And in the media seem to sell this as such a great thing. It's as eco. Even we're seeing there's Tommy turbine storybooks being sent around the schools. And really it's to feed the narrative of these large multinational wind turbine companies who are making millions, billions out of these turbines. So it's very hard for a small group like us to get our message across. And a lot of people then think it's, again, NIMBYism and not in our backyard, but there's an awful lot of problems with wind energy, and governments have to start looking at it. There's a Lord Frost there did a talk about the cost of some renewables, and whether it is actually whether things are being looked at right, whether the truth is coming out. But wind energy, of course, obviously is intermittent, and because of that, they will need these BESS, which is the battery energy storage systems. There's one being passed in at new buildings. There's one proposed for outside Plum Bridge. But local people, there's been no consultation on that, and local people don't realise what has been put in their areas. If these things catch fire, there's no putting them out. And also just the look of them in a rural, unspoiled countryside. It just changes the whole nature of the area. And again, a bit like mining, there's very, very little local jobs. Maybe some during construction, but wind farms, data centers, and BESS do not take jobs, or they do not create employment.
Well, I can't thank you, Annie, enough, Annie and Morella, for just coming forward and sharing all this information. It's so needed. But I'll let you finish.
You're okay.
Sorry.
So I already touched on tourism, but yeah, there is a lot of investment made locally. And I suppose it's that, we're looking for joined up government as well. In one case you have you have the Sperrins AONB management plan been launched. And also Northern Ireland has launched a landscape strategy, which is great. I so welcome it. And a new organization called, I think it's Landscapes NI, with Mike McClure. I really, really welcome that. But you have the DAERA minister doing that. But on the other hand, you've got Conor Murphy in the Department of Economy, talking about let's get all these energy hungry data centers up to the northwest, because we can just cover the northwest with wind turbines to feed them. And isn't that a great thing? And that's just what local people are saying. And we do feel that we are being sold out by all the government departments, all the government political parties. I've never been political. And I don't know why.
Yeah, no.
I'm a very reluctant activist, to be honest.
And
But
I'd have been the
sometimes things
same.
come to your door, whether you like it or not.
And the
But
area also has a dark sky status now as well. Sure, where would that be? That's gone if all this big industry comes in.
yeah, exactly. I think that dark skies that that Dava has, I don't know if that can be extended. That would possibly be a great thing if we could get that extended to the
Well, I
Glen
could
and
laugh at you
areas like
saying that, Annie, because sometimes in the Glen we live in, whenever I always say this is the dark sky, actually the centre is the dark sky, because
Yeah.
sometimes the place that's designated, sometimes I look out and think, oh, you look like the big city. We're the dark sky.
Yeah. No, I heard people locally recently talking about Gortin around that area, but Glenelg here definitely is a dark sky area, but
And
not much longer.
how many people worldwide cannot see the stars?
That's right.
And the stars bring us an energy.
But you can see from this map just the spread then, and it's talking about climate justice and a kind of a just solution to climate change. But in Northern Ireland, over half of the generation is only in 4 council areas. And surprise, surprise, they're in the northwest: Strabane, Fermanagh, Omagh and Limavady. And these are probably out of date. They're probably a higher percentage by now. So the Derry, Tyrone, Omagh, Fermanagh and Derry and Strabane is become saturated. And the planners are supposed to take saturation into account. And I think it seems to go the opposite way, that it's almost like they say, oh, well, there's already wind farms there. It's already ruined. So you may as well put some more in. So it's a definitely very worrying. We mentioned archaeological, but yeah, there is lots of archaeological features. This is the top of the moat, and 100 meters away, there's a turbine planned for it. So it would have impact as that. This is what a turbine base looks like. And I was totally shocked when I've seen this for the first time. I think people think that there's just little sticks that are stuck on the hills. What are you worried about? But there's massive tons of concrete putting into these bases that's going into a
Bigger than the base
wetland.
of a house.
The peatlands are wetlands. And where do you think the chemicals from that concrete is going to? It's leaching right through the peatland and into the tributaries.
Yeah, and then concrete is alkaline and peat is acidic.
Yeah.
It's creating the pH, it's moving the pH, and so it no longer is a peatland, something else, but it's not a peatland.
But I think I've got one more thing I want to share with you. I'll see if I can. No, right. I was just a map of the no. But just if you could see the map, if you can actually go on, it's I can share the link later with you, Kerry. That and I'll show you the map of the local area and all the turbines, and you can see the saturation of them there. But yeah, unfortunately, that's the end of mine. Or fortunately for you, my presentation. I think I can stop sharing now. I think you're muted, Kerry.
I'm saying thank you to both of you. Thank you so, so much for taking the time to come on and share this really, really vital information, you know, and people are going to be interested to hear it locally and worldwide. Like, Ireland is a very loved country and the ancestral root place of a lot of people as well. Just before I finish off, I want to mention, because a lot of what we shared today was so heavy, you know, it is heavy information for people to absorb, to process and to digest. And I think, you know, one of the things, I don't know, that's just a very difficult part for people to let things sink in, what's actually happening in our world and on our planet. I was involved with the stopping of a wind farm in our area, and I only became aware of it in 2014, and it was actually stopped in 2020. Now, initially, that wind farm was for 57 industrial scale wind turbines, and there wouldn't have been half the turbines there is now. And eventually it was stopped in 2020. By then it was 33 industrial scale wind turbines that the company were looking to get through. And I think it's important that I finish on this point, that it was difficult for the community, and I want to acknowledge them and all the work that they did and how thankful I am, because I know it would be a humongous industrial scale wind farm already. And people who are driving on the Cookstown line from Omer to Cookstown, they don't realise this. I see it every day, but that's all. Instead of looking into our mountains and seeing our beautiful Dart and Savile and our ancient hills that are coming down, all she would see is this big, ugly, monstrous, humongous wind farm. So thank you to them and all the years and hard work. And by no means that's not all stopped as well. What we sometimes have other things we always have to keep on watch, but eventually it was refused. And what the commissioner did state whenever she refused it, and if we can take this away as a message of hope, that we don't totally give up on our officials and our government systems, because they're systems, but them systems have people in it, real people, and this is their home as well. And the way that the commissioner would have ended her statement was, my aim is to improve people's lives, not add to their burden. So taking that all into account and in the line with the PAC recommendation, I have decided to refuse this application. And if we can just finish there and, you know, take part, this is the Sacred Rainbow Current Summit, and this is taking back the gifts that we have of hope, faith and love, that can be the cornerstone of our planet, that can come back into the bones of humanity. But thank you so much, ladies.
Thank you, Kerry. Thanks for
Mirella.
inviting us.
Yeah, thank you.
Aye.
Thank you, Carrie. Thank you.
Thank you so
thank you,
much.
Manny.
Thank you. We'll sign off.
Have you stopped recording?
Stopping now. Just give me a wee second.